Well, hello once more and welcome back to Calgary Barbell. This is Form Check Friday, the video series where we take your user submitted videos, we toss them up on the screen behind me, and I take my expert opinion and experience as a competitor and coach for many years to try to help people become better lifters. Now, if you want to submit your video for Form Check Friday, you can go ahead and send those emails to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. That is the one and only email we will accept submissions from. So send those to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. All right. Now, for anybody who's familiar with this series, you'll know that we left off with some lifts last time, and we had the comments section give their constructive criticism on Sage's squat. Now, for a little bit of context once more, this is a triple at 335. His best is 410. He says he's been plateaued for a while now. He's tried all kinds of different programs, stances, shoes, sleeves, you name it, and he's tried it. So he says he feels okay with squats until about 395, and then says he starts to have some issues with depth and just hasn't been able to get past that. So let's take a look here and see what I can pick out. Now, on first glance, last week, it looked like he was actually doing a pretty darn great job with these squats. Now, one thing I might have him try is moving that bar down his back just a little bit. Let me get a better color here that y'all can see. So right now, we're in a relatively high bar position. Like you can see, he's got biggish traps, and you can see the bars up above his traps, which, let's see, in the bottom, is that causing a little bit of rocking forward? Not really, hey? Wonder if that's part of what happens when he gets heavy, though, is we start to get pulled forward by the bar being in a high bar position. So one of the things I would maybe try here, Sage, is lowering that bar down into a bit of a lower bar position. Now, it looks like you're doing a really good job with bracing, with your bottom position, with control, maintaining torso angle, like staying in your quads out of the bottom. There's a lot of boxes that are being checked here. So I would say play with your bar position, see if you can get a lower bar position to work for you. And just maybe try playing with your frequency, your volume, your intensity. Try using different accessory movements. You kind of have to be systematic in thinking about how you're going to get your lifts to progress. It looks to me like you have tons more in the tank and like you have a really good technique. So I don't think technique is the biggest issue. I would take a look at some of the other variables in your programming. So, all right, man, I hope that helps you out, and best of luck breaking through to the other side of that plateau. Our next submission here comes from Cameron, and Cameron's doing some bench press. So Cameron titled his video Poverty Bench. Now, anybody who saw our self-talk video would know that I don't like that kind of talk about people or in regards to people talking about their own lifts, but regardless, we're going to dive in here. So he says his bench is his weakest lift. He's been stalled on it for almost a year now. 1 RM of 102.5 kilos. Oh, sorry, we've got it cycling between the two videos there. All right. He's an Aussie. He knows Liz Craven. For those who don't know Liz, we did a video with Liz on squat bracing that was quite popular. A lot of people liked that. She braces a little differently than I do, so I think it was a very interesting point of view to be able to share. Now, let's look at this bench here. All right. So, let's see. The unrack looks okay. Looks like we're getting back into a, into a pretty good position with the back out of the rack. I would maybe try to pull that bar out a little bit more. We might be starting from a bit high. If we pull that bar down, sort of down your torso a little bit, it might help bring those shoulder blades down a little more, help you get your chest up and kind of, again, just minimize that range of motion a tiny bit. It looks like you're getting really loose in the bottom as well. So if we watch here, we can see there's a momentary lapse of tightness in the legs, in the chest. A lot of things kind of move around in that bottom position, and I think it definitely needs to be tighter. We need to be working harder on staying tight in the bottom. Now the other thing is we can probably move that touch down a little bit. And this is going to go hand in hand with bringing the bar down, bringing the shoulders down more, and touch a little bit higher up. Because right now, sorry, let's see if we can get there. So right now we're touching right here. If we could touch right here by bringing this down and the bar out further, then that's going to trim a solid amount of the range of motion off of your bench press. So that might be something worth looking at as well. And just like I was saying to Sage, you know, try to get systematic with what you're doing with your programming. Think about your frequency. Think about the intensity. Think about the volume and the overall stress. Think about the accessory lifts or lack of accessory lifts that you're using. One of the big things that I found worked for me with bench and has worked with a lot of my athletes is to increase your frequency. Simply bench more often. Now, this doesn't need to be a big spike in volume necessarily. It could start off as breaking up the volume, the same amount of volume, same amount of stress over more sessions, and then gradually over time work to increase the overall workload and stress. So hopefully there's some nuggets and some tidbits in there for you that help you get that bench moving again. So best of luck with that, my man. All right. Up next, we have Yok. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he says he's got about a 270 deadlift, which is awesome. Dude looks jacked. And he says he's been doing powerlifting for 2 years, feels his deadlift has some issues at the top lockout. His PR is 270, and he's got a 250 high bar squat. Hopes to hear from us and diagnose the weak point and what he can do to improve his technique. So let's take a look here. Now, I think this is something that's really common. I've been seeing a lot of this lately. And he pulls in, and then the first thing that fires is he's trying to pull his back through. He's trying to extend his hips and pull his back before he starts working with the legs. So again, I would work on, like, allow yourself to stay over the bar, keep all of this very, 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 very tight, and start pushing through your feet. Don't think about pulling up and reefing on that bar. Think about pushing the floor away, right? Get that feeling of leg pressing the floor away. Be a little bit patient with pulling back and extending the hips and getting that back angle more upright. At that point, push. And you can tell by how much everything kind of shifts backward as he starts to pull. So he's pulling back this way. He's working on extending his hips as soon as he starts to lift, and it causes everything around this point to start to drift back. The knees drift back, weight's way back on the heels. We're extending before the knees are locked. And I mean, conventional deadlifts, you're not going to lock your knees as early, but I still think there's value in staying 4 foot, staying a full foot over the bar. And again, if you're starting to try to pull your back through and you get too far back on the heels, that can make lockouts tricky sometimes too. The other thing, if you have problems with lockout, don't just lock super quick and then drop it. Lock it, lock your knees, hold it, hold it, hold it, you know, make sure that your lockouts are solid. Because right now, the other thing that I'm seeing is it looks like you're almost unlocking your knees as you finish the rep. So you got to watch out for that. All right, man. Hopefully that helps. You're obviously a super strong dude with plenty of room to grow. So I want to see it. I want to see that 300 kilo deadlift, dude. All right. This is Byron. Byron's doing some squats. He says he's been watching the channel a lot and has gained some tips from watching. Loves lifting. He says he hasn't tried competing, but may compete in the future. He's been lifting for 2 years and just wants an opinion on his squats and his deadlift, and the squats are here. So this is about 80%, excuse me, of his max, and it looks like he's probably doing a double or a triple here. So let's take a look and see what we can find. First off, let's see out of the rack. Okay, looking pretty tight. I'd try to minimize this walkout a little bit more. Like, hold on. All right, so we got 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, adjust, 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 adjust. What I'd rather see is 1 big step, 1 more step, 1 step to adjust, and go, right? We can probably cut down on that walkout a little bit. Now let's see what else we got here. shelf looks good. Bar's in a good strong position. The elbows are relatively in line with the trunk, which I like. Looks like it's maybe a little bit high from this angle. So I think one thing that you're doing is you're trying to stay really, really upright in your squat. So what's happening is instead of actually pushing the hips back and tilting the torso, you're simply extending, right? So you're arching your butt out behind you. And a lot of times when we have that back extension, we kind of run into an earlier range of motion. Some of the muscles kind of reach their end point or end of the range of motion early when we're really arched up like that. So if we can actually allow that chest down a little bit when we tilt. So this bracing to me looks really good. And then you go into this sort of extension before you go into the lift. What I would recommend is trying to tilt back. And actually in our last Form Check Friday, nope, that was earlier this Form Check. Sorry, we're filming two a day right now. So when we were talking about Cameron's bench, I talked about a video we did with Liz Craven. So I'm gonna get Dylan to put that video link somewhere on the screen right about now. And I want you to go check that out, because one of the things she talks about is this like ribs down bracing, which I think is one of a few ways that you can brace. But the big thing that I think she really hits the nail on the head about is that sort of tilt and that setting of the hips and the hinging to initiate the squat. And I think that's something that you'd benefit a lot from. So I'll get Dylan to put that on the screen somewhere, and go check that video out, because we can see on this second rep, so that's the first rep, second rep, we start to lose some of this torso position in the bottom, right? We start to see the hips come up behind, the bar starts to toss us forward a little bit. And one of the signs that somebody is bracing too upright is when they go from this nice upright torso angle and fall down into this torso angle. And then, I mean, why don't we just start with that one, right? Overall, I think you have a great squat. I just think that there are some bracing and some hinging things that we could definitely improve on a little bit there. So let's get over to Isaac here. Isaac's doing some bench press. Fellow Albertan, shout outs to Berta. He's from Lethbridge. So he says, this is the first back down set after his heaviest lift of the day. Was supposed to go for 3, but the second rep felt bad, butt came up. Wondering if you had any tips for his setup, and of course any tips in general. Excuse me. I'm just gonna take a sip of water here. All right. So let's see. All right. So setup looks pretty good. I think the shoulders are up a bit though. I think the shoulders could be pulled down more. I like the unrack with your butt up. That's something that I do. I feel like it helps me get into a good decline position and bring my chest up to the bar. And we talked earlier about the leg drive and how important that is in contributing to keeping that chest up. At least I think we did. So when you unrack, we lose so much of that position, right? I want you to be a little bit more cautious when you set your butt down. Try to set your butt down like up here instead of setting it down out here, and then all this arch collapses. Because like, let's try to draw this here. So that's your chest position here. We unrack, and holy cow, did that chest fall, right? Drive that chest up more. Keep that leg drive on. Looks like you're kind of losing a bit of control in the bottom, and I think that would be helped by keeping your chest up more, because you get to like here, and then from here to the chest, it just kind of falls, and your shoulders lose position, and it kind of just like hits your chest. So it's the bench is good to like there, and then this last little bit of the range of motion, we see it kind of fall, and then we are also pressing the bar out this way. Generally speaking, in the bench press, bar path is really important. We want to press back and up, right? We want that bar to come back and then up. And what's happening here is we're coming up, out even a little bit, and then back. See, and then we start to go back about there. So work on that bar path. Work on keeping more consistent leg drive so that you don't have as far to go with the bar. because that's going to make a really big difference in the bench press. And make sure as you press, you're thinking about driving it back over your shoulders. Let those elbows flare out a little bit and press it back over your shoulders. All right. So that brings us to the final submission of the day. This is from Jose, and we're going to let this play for a bit. So Jose is doing 455 for some triples here. So he's been training about 2 years, barely got into deadlifts and squatting about a year ago, and a couple of months ago. Sorry. Wants to know what we think, loves the YouTube. Yeah, so I want everybody to take some time out of their day, head down into the comments section and let us know what Jose could do better. Let us know how Jose could improve his deadlift. If there's anything that anybody sees, we'd love to hear it, and we'll get some community critique going on. I will come back next week and we will start the video with my critique of Jose's deadlift. But until then, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to let you know that if you're interested in submitting for Form Check Friday, I want you to send those emails to formcheckfriday@gmail.com. And if you like this content, make sure to hit subscribe. We have one of these videos every Friday, and we're also live streaming on Twitch doing form checks. So if you want to come by twitch.tv/Calgary Barbell and check us out there, we'll be there every Friday, 12 p.m. at 12 p.m. MST. That's it for me today. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.